All right, let's figure out how to make a graph of some data. Pretty simple in Excel. Grab all the data that you're interested in making a graph for. Go up to Insert, over to Scatter Plot, and click that button. This gives you a graph. Notice that it says Series 1 on this side. You don't really need this, but also a graph, to be accurate, needs to have labels. Easiest way to get a hold of this is under Design over here. This particular chart has all of those labels automatically, so you don't have to insert them. So now I can go in here and title my graph. This is the growth chart for a boy. This x-axis down here is the age, and you always want to list what its units are. I started to write years, but this is really months. And the y-axis is the baby's length, and that is measured in centimeters. Okay. Now, other details. A lot of wasted graph down here at the bottom. Notice the y-axis really only starts at 64, so it'd be kind of nice to get rid of some of that. So if you click on that data, the labels on the right click, go down to Format Axis. One of your options here is the minimum. So I could set that at 64, or I guess I'll set it at 60 so it has a little bit of room. Notice how that allows the graph to use up a little bit more of the space. I think I'll do the same thing on the bottom. Left click Format Axis. And I also want to give that a minimum. I think I'll just start it at 2. And notice the numbers are a little bit weird and the spacing's a little bit strange. The other option I could take there is this major unit. Right now it's going every 5, so it went from 2 to 7 to 12. I could say, well, there's a lot of room, so let's make it every 2. So that looks a little bit more readable. I like that. This series one over here on this side shows up because you might have two different types of graphs. Like this is the blue was a growth chart for a boy, and the pink was a growth chart for a girl. Then this label would give me a way to explain which graph applied to what, but I don't really need that, so just waste my space. This isn't necessary, but it's also kind of another neat feature. If you right click, you can add major grid lines, and you can even add minor grid lines. This allows it to be a little easier for somebody to read. So notice the vertical axis already had major grid lines, so I'll add some minor grid lines to that as well. And you can adjust the size of them if you can't see them very well. It's hard to read them. This also isn't necessary, but I could format those major grid lines, go into line style, and make them a little bigger. I think I'll do the same thing over here. So that's a pretty easy graph to read now. Last thing that's I want to add is a trend line. So if I click on the data itself, right click, one of my other options is add a trend line. So let's just add a linear. That looks fairly linear, might have a curve to it, but let's add something that's linear. And down here I can even display the equation on the chart that goes with that line. So I think I'll do that. Can move that around into a spot on the graph that makes it a little easier to read. I could make the text a little bit larger, make it bold so it stood out above the other text. There you go. Perfect.